So this is the KhoodeelaarTV television channel broadcasting on the internet under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo editions. Geronimo is the alpaca born in New Zealand, brought up by Leonie Walker and invited by Helen MacDonald to live with her and her family of alpacas in South Gloucestershire in England in 2017. Baby Angel Geronimo, we have adopted as a symbol, as the mascot, as the banner, as the leader, because Baby Angel Geronimo is the world's bestest Baby Angel Geronimo. And we love him, and we treasure him, and we promote the evidence, the witness, the observations that he makes round the clock in accordance with the promise in the Holy Quran, Innal Baatila kana zahuka. Innal Baatila kana zahuka. Britain is a basket case. Now, we have known this for a very long time. But there is a confession today, Wednesday, the 30th of August 2023, on the front page of the Daily Mail, which confesses in the form of a column by Michael Gove's ex-wife, Sarah Vanity. Sarah Vanity says, quite simply, basket case Britain is starting to feel like a third world country where nothing works. Well, Baby Angel Geronimo knows that nothing works in terms of any fairness, any justice, any truth. Because Baby Angel Geronimo has been subjected to vilification, demonization, misrepresentation, defamation, lying in a campaign, poisonous campaign of murder by Boris Johnson and his cabal of criminals based at the criminally misnamed Department for the Environment, Protection for Environment, DEFRA. And the Baby Angel Geronimo is the witness of all the injustices that have been taking place by DEFRA, by the cabal fronted by Boris Johnson, now fronted by Rishi Sunak. Now, Baby Angel Geronimo, in good faith, expected basic standards, basic values to be upheld. But not one, not two, as many as 3 judges sitting in the High Court in London, separately on separate dates, behaved as stooged criminals, devoid of any brains, devoid of any sense, devoid of any idea, let alone actual conviction, commitment to due process and fairness and justice. So today, Sarah Vanity says, quite simply, basket case Britain is starting to feel like a third world country where nothing works. And then she says, and it's because too few seem to want to put the effort in anymore. And the criminal racist liar Leo McNasty. In the same edition of the Daily Mail, Leo McNasty says in his criminal column, I'm looking for the McNasty's nasty column. So Leo McNasty's column, the main words as the heading are, is this proof our Rolls-Royce civil service is now a clapped out campervan full of earnest radicals? Now the fucking criminal cunt fucks up the premise because the conclusion is completely contradictory and it's not based on any evidence that he, McNasty, the crook, has any idea what he's talking about. So, reading the smaller letters on top of the big letters heading, as top civil servant who oversaw asylum policy joins charity that's fiercely critical of immigration controls. Is this proof our Rolls-Royce civil service is now a clapped out campervan full of earnest radicals? When David the Sleazeball Cameron condemned Jeremy Corbyn after Corbyn had visited Calais to meet some of the people seeking asylum and refugees, Cameron did that with the confidence that none of the members of parliament sitting in the House of Commons as he attacked Corbyn's meeting with the Calais based would be migrants and would be asylum seekers. Cameron knew that nobody would challenge him. Cameron knew that nobody from the Labour Party side would challenge him either. And Leo McNasty is a career prostitute commentator. This prostitute McNasty worked with Harriet Harman. Now, Harriet Harman is labeled as a Labour Party member of Parliament, but it is impossible to distinguish between her policy or politics and the policy and politics of the non-Labour, so-called anti-Labour conservatives. Because Harriet Harman, Hattie Harman, is one of the long-standing endorsers of the mental slave Trevor Terrible Pealeeps. Trevor Terrible Pealeeps was promoted in The Guardian, and both Hattie Harman and Polly Toynbee promoted him unconditionally. One of the main reasons why they promote Trevor Terrible Pealeeps, especially Hattie Harman, is because Trevor Terrible Pealeeps is a mental slave who looks black, his skin color is black, but is totally anti-black, not only not non-black, but anti-black in the basket of what amounts to be his thoughts that he carries and he delivers. Trevor Terrible Pealeeps is a notorious liar, courier of racist hate messages, and is so completely detached from any biological kind of identity that he might have otherwise, that once in front of me at the Friends Meeting House in Houston, he openly, deliberately condemned his own elder brother, Mike Phillips. And he said, "Shut up, Mike." And Mike Phillips' only crime was he was trying to get a clarification about the purpose of the gathering. And the gathering was a platform to be given to Peregrine Wollstone. Peregrine Wollstone had been employed by the Sunday Sunday Telegraph for a very long time. And Peregrine Wollstone was a loyal promoter of anything that Margaret Thatcher promoted and stood for. And so, what Leo McNasty is saying today about this particularly asylum policy, top civil servant who is joining the asylum policy related charity, what's his name? Let's get his name. One, two, three, four, five, 6, 7, 8, ninth paragraph, the fucking cunts. The civil servant is mentioned there at the top, but her name is not mentioned until the fucking ninth paragraph. It's a woman called Emma Haddad, former Director General for Asylum and Protection in the department, is to become a non-executive director of the charity Amnesty International, which has long been one of the government's most ferocious opponents on immigration. Now, this Leo McNasty is completely ignorant, ill-informed, biased, and stupid and racist, and he carries nothing that can be mentioned in decent company on his head, what is supposed to be his head. Amnesty International is not a radical organization. Amnesty International is part of the organized propaganda outfits that trades as a charity, campaigning for this, that, and the other, but essentially not opposing colonialism, not opposing imperialism, not opposing corruption, criminality, and racism at home or internationally. Amnesty International has not broken one single story about one case of injustice that takes place every single day, every single hour. We go back to the three judges that sat separately as prostitute stooges carrying out the corrupt agenda against Baby Angel Geronimo that had been scripted by this evil woman called Christine Evilness, based at DEFRA. And these judges, as typified by the utterances of the latest one sitting, Griffiths, who sat on the 29th of July 2021. And he said, amongst other things, the main thing that he said, Griffiths, was that the Secretary of State was entitled. The details meaning entailing that regardless of the law, regardless of the acts of parliament, regardless of the actual written confirmation that the government was committed to protecting the innocent and the protecting the healthy and protecting the pure. The Secretary of State was entitled to disregard all the evidence and to go ahead with a program of murdering the innocent. That's what effectively Griffith's statement. And before Griffiths, it was the first one of the three was Murray. Murray said more or less the same thing. When we say Baby Angel Geronimo editions, what we mean is that we include the technical details, technical particulars of what happens in the so called judiciary, and also we take into account the wider framework, wider international values, the obligations. For example, there is this, let's check the actual now there is one item that at random kind of search that has appeared, and I'll go on to read the relevant bits there. That is called World Animal Protection. And it says animals need your protection. We all loved animals as a child, but when did that change? When did we stop caring? Does an animal's life mean nothing at all? Together we can stand up for animals in need and end this abuse. Please show your love for animals and join us today. There are all kinds of illustrations of cases of animals being violated. All over the world, for many animals, from the moment they are born, they face a lifetime of pain, suffering, and cruelty at the hands of humans. Elephants trapped in tourism are forced to carry tourists in the scorching heat on long and exhausting rides. Bears are held captive in bear bile farms as they endure the excruciating pain of having their bile extracted over and over again. Animals are sentient beings and, like us, feel positive and negative emotions, pleasure and happiness, fear and anguish. Every animal deserves a life free from pain and suffering, whether it's in farms, in the wild, or in our communities. Now, this is the kind of preachery thing that doesn't actually deal with the cruelty and criminality perpetrated in the name of government, which the agenda, the harassment program started in 2017 against Baby Angel Geronimo by the UK DEFRA represents and typifies. And this is the problem with the so called charities. No charitable organization in the United Kingdom And none of the counterparts in any of the so called first world countries, to use the criminal Sarah Benitez's stupid phraseology, none of these countries, say United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and the demographic remains of the apartheid Africa, South Africa, none of these parts, which are supposed to be the first world, has got any protection really when it comes to the use, well, abuse really, of the court, the judicial system, the state structure. And what do they do with the DEFRA? Let's check what what they claim about DEFRA. So it says Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs is a department of His Majesty's government in the United Kingdom responsible for environmental protection, food production and standards, agriculture, fisheries, and rural communities in the entire United Kingdom. Concordat set out agreed frameworks for cooperation between it and the Scottish Government, Welsh Government, and Northern Ireland Executive, which have developed responsibilities for these matters in their respective nations. Now, the DEFRA was formed, according to this entry on Wikipedia, in 2001, which is 22 years ago. And it used to be called Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food, Department of Environment, Transport, and the Regions. And the jurisdiction is the government of the United Kingdom, and is based in Marsham Street, London, and it's got a budget of 2.2 billion current budget. And the minister responsible at present is Theresa Coffey, Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. And there are ministers Mark Spencer, MP Minister of State, Rebecca Powell, MP Parliamentary Under Secretary of State, Trudy Harrison, MP Parliamentary Under Secretary of State. And then there is this, I'll use it within quotation mark, Bennion, Lord Bennion, Minister of State. And the permanent secretary is a woman called Tamara Finkelstein. Is Tamara Finkelstein connected with the Finkelstein, the member of the House of Peers? We shall check. Now, this is the department currently fronted by Theresa Coffey, but it was fronted by, at the crucial time, fronted by the criminal George Injustice Eustace. Now, Eustace was the one that persisted in repeatedly making public statements that Baby Angel Geronimo was not entitled to be given the clearance because he was innocent of the alleged infection. He was not infected, and the allegation, the demonized allegation, the falsely made allegation against him by the DEFRA could only be disposed of if an independent, truly independent scientific check on his state of health was allowed, but the department persistently refused to do that. And that is part of the expression by Griffiths about the entitlement of the Secretary of State to disregard the law. Now, let's go back to the forum internationally and see if the United Nations has got anything currently on about Now this is the thing that is called UN Convention on Animal Health and Protection, UNCAHP. So, what is the latest news there? It says animal protection is knocking at the door, UN's door. GAL Association takes a giant step on behalf of animals. Let's see. American Bar Association refers to UNCAHP in its resolution passed on 22nd of February 2021. And so there is this editorial in this magazine called Animal Voice, and it appears to be written by a woman called Louise Van der Marui, whatever she is, a white woman. She's obviously from the European continent, but it is not clear which country in the continent she is from. So she says, it is said that the darkest hour is just before the dawn, and the hour is certainly very dark for the non humans of this world. So, dare I allow myself to hope then that the dawn is not too far off? I think maybe I can. Today, we have leading legal minds. Remember what we are talking about, the criminality and the prostitution by three High Court judges in the United Kingdom against Baby Angel Geronimo. So when she says legal minds worldwide, she says, today we have leading legal minds worldwide working towards the inclusion of non humans within our circle of moral justice. Now, where has this woman been when repeatedly Baby Angel Geronimo has been the target of vilification and lying by the United Kingdom DEFRA, aided and abetted and approved by the evilness called Boris Johnson, aided and abetted and supported by the evilness called Keir Starmer, to mention only a few. The particular comment made by the midget Ian Pissoff, the editor of Private Eye, mocking the Baby Angel Geronimo during one of the weeks of comments about Baby Angel Geronimo being attacked by the courts and the government. Instead of instead of reflecting this, what this woman is saying, this Animal Boys editor Louise, he mocked he mocked the people and mocked the actual Baby Angel Geronimo, just in the way that Nigel Nasty Lawson's son, Dominic the evilness Lawson, had done. Dominic Lawson had mocked those people who were expressing support for the Baby Angel Geronimo against the attacks scripted and plotted at DEFRA and being promoted by the Camperban, let's say, Camperban courts, otherwise known as the High Court in London, in the United Kingdom. So, when even Private Lie, which is edited by the midget Ian Pissoff, who boasts that Private Lie is the only one that tells the truth about what is going on in British politics, as well as telling the truth about what is going on within the British media, because it has got a long running section called Street of Shame, which is a reference to Fleet Street. And Fleet Street is a rhetorical reference to the street where most of the British newspapers had their offices before being dispersed into other parts. So the media, even the critical media, like the Private Lie, was hostile to the Baby Angel Geronimo. Not indifferent, hostile to the Baby Angel Geronimo, the innocent Baby Angel Geronimo, the perfectly innocent and healthy Baby Angel Geronimo. And so was Dominic Lawson, who has got multiple platforms on the corrupt news outlets in the name of Fleet Street. And Keir Starmer, supposedly, remember the word legal minds? Supposedly legal mind, because he is a licensed law trading criminal, and he's so far promoted front bench colleague in the name of the Labour Party in Parliament was Streeting. West Streeting is on the record as having lied when he was younger, when he was somewhere at college, and he murdered an animal just to prove how far he could go. Now, this West Streeting is supposed to be apparently one of the listed wannabes as leaders of the Labour Party in future. And he has not hidden the fact that he is ambitious and that his ambitions include his becoming leader of the Labour Party, and even admitting that he doesn't want it hidden, that his ambitions include his becoming the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. So these are the people that typify the actual type of opinion formers and leaders of opinion in the United Kingdom who supported the planned attacks on Baby Angel Geronimo. And they did that in admitted knowledge, in admitting the fact that they knew that there were reasons for objecting to the planned attacks on Baby Angel Geronimo, but they still went ahead and said that they wanted the government's planned attack on the Baby Angel Geronimo to be carried out. They did that by saying, in effect, admitting that they knew that Baby Angel Geronimo was innocent, was in perfect health. So let's go back to this woman's boast about this animal voice. Let's see what she's saying about the legal minds. So her name is Louise van der Marwee. She says it is said that the darkest hour is just before the dawn, and the hour is certainly very dark for the non humans of this world. So, dare I allow myself to hope, then, that the dawn is not too far off? I think maybe I can. And then she goes into the boast. Today, we have leading legal minds worldwide. Leading legal minds worldwide. 4 words. Working towards the inclusion of non humans within our circle of moral justice. Among them is South Africa's constitutional law expert, Professor David Bilchitz. He is pictured here with Kenyan advocate Jim Karani at the Cape Town Animal Conference 2019, held at the University of Cape Town in September. And there are photocopies, images of various letters of endorsement, etc., etc. And it says, up until now, good animal welfare has been calculated predominantly on the provision of food, water, and shelter. I noticed that the draft convention adds a major psychological dimension to the well being of the animals. And this is about GAL, GAL, this organization that they are promoting. And there are pictures of two individuals. One is Dr. Antoine Guetschal, president and founder of GAL, and Dr. Sabine Brels, co founder and project head UNCAHP. And she says, Sabine Brels, animals are sentient. Their dignity as individuals must be respected in every interaction. Now, listen to this. Exposing them to anxiety, humiliation, disrespect, or degradation is absolutely contrary, she says, absolutely contrary, yeah, to what they, she said, contrary to our obligation to them. Even CAHP incorporates brand new aspects of our obligations in the protection of animals. And there is a longer kind of statement following that, of course. And one of the things it says comes straight to the United Kingdom because it refers to global. It says UNCAHP incorporates brand new aspects of our obligations in the protection of animals, incorporating their fundamental interests, legal representation in courts of law, and encouraging the development of alternative to animal exploitation and products. As you can see, a major interest of UNCAHP is to consolidate far reaching provisions for all animals in a truly global context. Well, this global context apparently didn't include the United Kingdom. In fact, although in principle it does. And when the three judges separately sitting as prostitutes rubber stamps for the criminals at the DEFRA, there was no sign in any of the reports carried in the British media about the existence of any international body or organization or platform that advocates this particular line that Sabine Brell is quoted as being the author of. So, what did the actual legal team that apparently appeared before these judges on behalf of Baby Angel Geronimo and his mum, the human mum Helen MacDonald, what did they think of the world context and the bodies that exist or existed or should have existed on a global platform? There is no mention in the contents of the copy of the ruling that is accessible, ruling that is attributed to Griffiths. There is no mention of the international bodies, international opinion, international platforms, and not only that, there is no mention of the principles. The principles, and let's go back to the principles, which is absolutely central. Sabine Brels is quoted as saying, very much, animals are sentient. Their dignity as individuals must be respected in every interaction. Exposing them to anxiety, humiliation, disrespect, or degradation is absolutely contrary to our obligation to them. Now, she obviously doesn't say what is the basis for our obligation, what is the source of this obligation. But let's say that this is a moral kind of context and it is subscribed to by those who support this UNCAHP and other organizations that support the organization. Changing our perception of the value of animals will push against violence and begin to build a society of care and respect. This is supposedly the opinion of David Bilchitz, constitutional law expert. In a fascinating interview on 7th of August this year, now we'll check which year they are referring to by this year. Radio 702's upbeat talk show host Eusebius McKaiser invited David Bilchis, professor of fundamental rights and human rights at the University of Johannesburg, to discuss society's evolving relationship with non human animals. Professor Bilchis is also director of the South African Institute for Advanced Constitutional. We will go back to that again shortly. So there is a discussion about some of the. So this is the piece we'll go to. The interviewer asks David Bilchis a question and he answers. It is the fundamental issue. The history of the world is one where humans have been seen as instrumental to other humans' ends. This came to a head in the Second World War, the Holocaust, where certain people, Jews and Roma people, were not regarded as having values, neither instrumental nor instinct, and so were easy to exterminate. The war ended with the Jews being to someone else's end. So the question is, who has intrinsic value? Is it only human beings? We humans say yes, because human beings have sophisticated capacities, the ability to speak, to think about philosophical questions, and to exercise these capacities. Take a very young child, for example. Most people think a very young child has rights, has intrinsic value, yet they don't have the capacity to engage in a conversation like adults do. Similarly, what about people with serious psychosocial disabilities? What are the grounds for their dignity and their intrinsic value? When we look more deeply into this, we find these humans, nevertheless, have a capacity to feel, a capacity for emotions, of experiencing pleasure and pain. And if we then agree and that the capacity to feel is the relevant criterion for intrinsic value, it follows that we must also then ask, do any other animals have such a capacity? And we find that many animals do have these capacities. The interviewer says, are you saying that simply being sentient is the key to understanding why one might have intrinsic value and therefore dignity? And David says, yes. So the interviewer says, someone may say, come on, David, you are taking this thing way too far. All we need is a basic Animal Welfare Act that says treat animals decently. Why do we need that? have to go to the bit and say animals have interests, that they have a point of view? Are you saying that animals we often regard as brutes have an inner psychological landscape that is actually on a continuum with what humans experience, and that we have just been ignorant about that? David, yes. The more we are learning from neuroscience and from the science of animal behavior, the more we understand the complex internal lives of animals. Now, all of these are absolutely true. The point is that how is it that none of these featured in the deliberations that were made allegedly on behalf of Baby Angel Geronimo before the formally sitting court, High Court in the United Kingdom? And how is it that none of the legal team or teams that acted allegedly on behalf of Baby Angel Geronimo raised any of the international issues, any of the scientific issues like these ones, any of the moral issues like these ones? So, what we are doing by giving the platform the banner name, the Baby Angel Geronimo editions, we are opening the whole discussion about Baby Angel Geronimo, everything that has been done against him, and everything that has been done wrongly by the United Kingdom, government, parliament, ministers, newspapers, and so on. All of these to be public and published coherently in a way that tells the whole truth about the attacks they mounted on Baby Angel Geronimo. And in principle, the attacks mounted against Baby Angel Geronimo is the most innocent and in the perfect health amounts to attacking all the other animals in perfect health and innocent, but demonized by evil individuals making the decisions. We shall be continuing and we shall be referring back to the international forums in due course. Let's check on this particular edition and what else we are going to update on. So, what Sarah Bennett is saying, quite simply, basket case Britain is starting to feel like a third world country where nothing works. Now, if we look at the actual behavior of the local councils in Gloucestershire, where Baby Angel Geronimo's home is, what did they do? The local county council, Gloucestershire County Council, and the Gloucester Council did nothing, nor did the local MP or MPs for that area. And that means that Helen McDonald not see any of what Helen McDonald was saying. Baby Geronimo was on pictures and on videos every single time that there was an item regarding the attacks on him by the government. Did the local councils not see, not hear any of that? Did the local members of parliament not see, hear any of that? And wasn't there anyone, any group, any organization, any body anywhere in South Gloucestershire that had any care about justice, about fairness. So these questions are going to be fully answered in our comprehensive account of the evidence around Baby Angel Geronimo and the witness Baby Angel Geronimo, because as we say in the Holy Quran, it says, Innal Baatil kana zahuka. What is this? Let's go back to the actual saying, transliteration of the saying in the Holy Quran. There is this وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. It says the truth has arrived. وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ. وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ. Truth has arrived. وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ. إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. Indeed, falsehood is Baatil, is doomed to perish. So, what Baby Angel Geronimo had is the impact Innal Baatila kana zahuka. Innal Baatila kana zahuka. Falsehood is doomed to perish. But in the case of the attacks on Baby Angel Geronimo, the falsehood that has been confected by DEFRA, by Boris Johnson, his co-colluder criminals, and by Christian evilness, Middle Miss, and George Injustice Eustace, and other criminals who featured in the actual High Court proceedings, apparently, what is this called? That let's check the So this is the item that I'm thinking of, this published account, which is dated the 29th of July 2021. And the news is 2021 EFHC5QB. That was at the time Queen's Bench Division because Brenda, the Queen, was still alive. And at the same division of the High Court now would be known as King's Bench Division because of King Brian as succeeding his mum. And the case number is CO forward stroke 2295 forward stroke 2021. And it's a case before Mr. Justice Griffiths between Helen MacDonald, Helen is spelled Helen, MacDonald is MacDonald, and Animal Plant and Health Agency. They are the respondents. And the hearing date was 29th of July 2021. So I'm going to find the bit about the Secretary of State is entitled. So the Mare was being quoted by Griffiths at item number 24. Mare noted that even if a third test were to be permitted and was negative, listen to this, even if a third test were to be permitted, a test here referring to the scientific test on whether Baby Angel Geronimo was infected at all. And he says, even if a third test were to be permitted and was negative, and then the test proved that the Baby Angel Geronimo was not infected at all, the Secretary of State was entitled to take the view. Listen to this. The Secretary of State was entitled to take the view that he would still insist on ordering slaughter. He is not hiding. He is being openly murderous. Why? It says because of the two positive tests. Now, this is illogical beyond condemnation because if the latest test is negative, then whatever test results were previous to that must be disregarded, and the latest test must be seen as the conclusive one. And when it says, quoting District Judge Layton, the first condition required me, that is, Layton, to be satisfied that there were reasonable grounds for an inspector to enter the premises of the applicant. What the fuck? What is the reasonable ground? What the fuck? So, what I am saying is that these are collections, series of criminals, liars, murderers, and they must not be not only treated as judges on others, whether Baby Angel Geronimo or other humans, they must be disqualified from having any access to any public platform, let alone any powers to make any decision as to the life of another being. And they fucked up because they keep saying the Secretary of State is entitled, and they don't say that it is based on evidence. They say that is what the Secretary of State is entitled to do, regardless. So there is no due process, there is no morality, there is no ethics, there is no fairness anywhere. So the question is, why was there no reference international forums? So the international doesn't appear, and the United Nations doesn't appear. Because they in they never they never allowed the Baby Angel Geronimo to be tested objectively, neutrally, without interference with the process of testing. What I'm meaning is that they actually are falsified the biology, the body state of the Baby Angel Geronimo before the those previous tests. So the previous tests they may be referred to, but they were not tests at all. They had been artificially staged, and they had been artificially done with the intention of producing the result that would be positive. So they didn't have a test at all. So they lied, literally. So we shall be continuing on this essay, narrating every single aspect of the lies and the corruption, the criminality, the cruelty, the prostitution, and the evilness of the mind so-called judges, the so-called newspaper, media commentators, media editor like the midget Ian Pissoff, and the evilness that is personified by Keir Starmer. What Sarah Bennett is saying about basket case Britain, she is talking about the actual behavior that she is critical of. But if she were to apply the objective criteria of comparing the values applied by these three judges to the actual evidence of the behavior of the DEFRA and its agency in altering the results of the tests in advance of the tests, then she would say that that was the perfect example of the British institution, the British state, and personnel involved in the decision making in the name of the British state behaving in a worse way than even in a third world country. So let's say this one. Highlights no one cares, no one can be bothered, and everyone has an excuse for why it's not their responsibility. Now, this could easily, this is she's talking about the mess up in the air control, but this could be applied to the behavior of the various so-called experts allied with the animal testing activities of the DEFRA. And I could repeat that one. No one cares, no one can be bothered, and everyone has an excuse for why it's not their responsibility. When people looking at the pictures that were published during the period of this reporting, the latest judge being Griffiths, you could see the pictures of Baby Angel Geronimo standing there. And he has been standing there forever, waiting for the truth, waiting for someone to care, someone to tell the truth, someone to tell the liars to stop it. And there was no one. No one to tell them to stop it, stop the lies. No one to tell them that they have not had even one independent, neutral, objective test to check the truth, the truthful position, the truthful state of health of Baby Angel Geronimo ever in the United Kingdom, not since he arrived in the United Kingdom. The tests that were done in New Zealand before Baby Angel Geronimo left New Zealand for England at the invitation of Helen MacDonald, he was found to have been in perfect health, because the tests there were carried out without his being primed, that is to say, without his body being interfered with in advance of the tests. What must have happened, and we are making this external observation based on all the evidence externally that we have observed, that Helen MacDonald, herself a trained veterinary nurse, that is to say, she is a nurse familiar with the welfare and care of animals. She must have had faith in the DEFRA bureaucracy, and she allowed the Baby Angel Geronimo to be tested according to them. And it must have occurred to her later that they had artificially staged the test. Nothing to do with science, nothing to do with the truth about the health of the Baby Angel Geronimo, but in order to promote, advance a policy of murdering a certain number of animals. So we shall be ending here at 1 hour 18 minutes, and we shall continue the narrative later, and we shall talk about Leo McNasty and others in the papers in the later editions, because we've got the newspapers that we were not talking about the other items, not in this edition. We shall be doing that in the later editions.